And we all know by now Robin Williams was suffering from severe depression.
And he is not alone. According to the CDC, it's estimated 9 or 10% of American adults are depressed at least occasionally. We're going to talk about this again today in our Ask the Expert segment.
Registered Dietitian Laurie Meyer joining us this afternoon.
That's all the summer stuff?
Depression, a debilitating disease, it affects the entire body, so I guess that's how food would come into play.
Well, you know, believe it or not, food does play a role. Certainly, diet is not going to replace medical therapy, but what you eat is certainly going to affect how the brain functions. And if you have deficiencies or excesses or any kind of imbalance, it's going to affect how your brain's going to work. And in fact, there was a recent study that came out of Britain. They looked at 3,000 people, and they found that people who had the highest junk food diets also suffered from the greatest depression. We're talking about fried foods and sweets and processed convenience foods, refined carbohydrates. 58% increase risk in depression when you follow a diet like that, compared to people who are eating more wholesome fruits and vegetables and you know, all the good foods that we recommend. So diet certainly can play a role.
It's interesting to hear that things like sugar, a traditional trigger, can play a role here.
It certainly does, because sugar is an inflammatory food. It inflames the gut, but it also inflames the brain, and it affects brain function, but it also increases insulin resistance. And researchers are now finding a really strong correlation between insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes, and we know that's a huge problem in this country, and depression. So you really want to look at sugar, but you also want to kind of look at things like sugar substitutes, because people will say, well, I'm not eating sugar, I'll just use the NutraSweet or aspartame. And we find that people, especially with depression or mood disorders, do not tolerate aspartame. It actually decreases serotonin, and serotonin is that feel-good brain chemical. So you really want to be careful about that as well. We're also looking at things like food sensitivities, gluten in particular. There's a psychiatrist, Dr. David Perlmutter, who has written a book, Grain Brain, and he has found that with his patients, removing gluten actually can help lessen the depression.
So when we talk about healthy foods, are there specific ones we should eat that will help with depression?
There actually are, and one of the most important things to do is to get fish oils. Those omega-3 fats, really, really important for brain chemistry, really important for optimizing serotonin and dopamine levels. So we have the sardines there.
You love pushing sardines.
She always has sardines.
If you love them, eat them, because they have so much in them that's so good for you.
They are a textural
but
thing
if you
that's
don't
hard
like
to do.
them, you can eat whitefish, you can eat salmon, you can eat trout, you can eat tuna. Just get more fish in the diet. Also, nuts and seeds, they have really protective fatty acids and vitamin E in them, which is also helpful for the brain. And then eating the rainbow, getting fruits and vegetables, in particular those with high antioxidant levels, so your green vegetables and your orange and yellow fruits and vegetables, also your berries, and then also citrus fruits, and the bean family, because we're also looking at some of the B vitamins as well. So eating the rainbow, you notice there are no processed foods on the table.
And look at all those
processed foods
and a lot of
oranges. That is a great.
We have, you know, carrots and cantaloupe and melons, orange peppers I have here. You know, any orange food is really going to be good for the brain.
It's going to be a tasty commercial break here.
Laurie Meyer, thanks.
Got a question for the experts? Send an email to asktheexpert@tmj4.com. You can also leave a voicemail, that number right there on your screen.